Time organised itself into days and nights. The days organised themselves around eating, dozing, and the exhausting minutiae of existence. The spider-haired woman jabbed a stubby thumb at herself. "Griffith," she repeated. Apparently she had discovered her charge was not deaf. Instantly grateful for this first attempt at communication, it opened its mouth to respond. No sound came forth. Its jaw hung slack, a crater of hollow disbelief. It had simply forgotten, or had never known, how to make speech. Frantically it searched its memories. It was then that the fist of despair slammed into the foundling. There were no memories. None at all. The thing, pale and debilitated, stared into hot iron darkness for half the night. To its dismay, it could dredge up no recollection of a past, and was unable to evoke its own name, if name it had ever possessed. As days passed in bewilderment, meaningless sounds began to metamorphose into half-comprehended words. Communications among other people. Although still confused, the newcomer compared their raiment with that which Griffith had put on him, and concluded that its own sex was male. This was an identity, no matter how generalized, to be grasped and held secure, a solid fact in a morass of uncertainty. He also discovered that he was unwelcome. Despite his inability to guess or understand more than half of what they were saying, it was not difficult for the misshapen youth to recognize the despisal, contempt, and hatred of the people among whom he dwelled. He huddled into a smaller bony heap in the furnace room corner when children spat at him. They thought him too repulsive to be approached, or they would have pinched him, as indeed they slyly pinched one another. Men and women generally ignored him. When they noticed him, they ranted coldly at Griffith, who appeared unconcerned. Sometimes, as if in self-defence, she would point out the stranger's hair for their inspection. The apparent importance of his hair he could not fathom. It seemed that she was tough, this old woman. They could not sway her. However, her frail patient had no illusions that she nurtured any love for him. She was kind, in a callous way, and he owed her his life. But all her actions were in the long term self-serving. To act selfishly, as the youth learned, was the way to survive in this place. What was this place? The youth knew little of it beyond the windowless furnace room, with its huge wood stack, where translucent spiders concealed themselves, with only their claw tips showing in rows of 4. The black walls of this chamber were rough-hewn blocks of rock. They sparkled with tiny silver points where they caught the firelight. One corner of the room held the hefty iron fire tongs, pokers, and other implements with which Griffith poked the fire after the men stoked it, several times a day. Men here wore the drab surcoat belted at the waist, the thick breeches stuffed into boots, and the oddly heavy hood that was left to hang down behind the shoulders. Their wood-brown hair was cut short. Some were bearded. They disregarded the stranger as they ignored the other crawling things scrambling out of the fuel, or unwisely hiding in it, to be later incinerated, curling in silent agony like dried leaves in the flames. The children would poke at the wood heap, disturbing insects and arachnids that scuttled crazily across the floor.